Okay, great. I'll go ahead and start the proceedings and introduce. As I said, I'm Jason Petticone. I'm the president and founder of the Paideia Institute, which is the organization that is publishing Ora et Labora, or has published Ora et Labora. It's a real pleasure to introduce Nick, who I can say now, in addition to one of our authors, has become a close friend and mentor to me over the past several years as we've gotten to know each other. As somebody interested in Greece, in ancient Greece and also modern Greece via the classics, I got to know Nick through one of his students who said, you know, you really need to, he had learned about the Paideia Institute and our programs, and he said, you really need to meet Nick Germanacos, who lives out in San Francisco, because he was doing, you know, something somewhat similar to you guys. And so I think I got an introduction from Dan Tober. I don't know if any of you know him. And ever since then, we've been having great conversations, and then in very sort of satisfying climax to our relationship so far has been the publication of Nick's first book of poetry, which is Ora et Labora. So just by way of introduction of Nick, I don't know how well everybody in the audience knows him, so I'll just say a few words about his background. So Nick is born in Wales, originally to a—
No, Cyprus. Cyprus.
Born in Cyprus, sorry.
I grew up in Wales, yes.
Sorry, I should have read more carefully there. Born in Cyprus, raised in Wales, has had a long career as a teacher and translator. His translation work, he's best known for modern Greek poetry as the translator of Yannis Ritsos, and then in prose of Thanasis Valtinos and Margarita Karapanu. And as a teacher, probably his greatest contribution and the place from which I think many of you may know him and how I got to know him was the Ithaca Cultural Studies program, which he and his wife Anne, who is also here today, ran on the island of Kalymnos and Crete for over 30 years. And you know, I've seen personally the effect that program has had on Hellenic studies, classics, and the wider humanities, because everybody knows Nick and everybody knows people who have been through that program, and what a great effect it has. So that's been really wonderful for the study of Greek and Greece. And so thank you, Nick, for that. So Nick is joining us from San Francisco via Zoom. He's going to be reading from his first book of poetry, Ora et Labora. The Paideia Institute Press was just getting going when Nick came up with the idea of wanting to publish this work, and we had been talking about it, and he very generously let us have a bash at it. It was one of our early projects. We're up to 5 independent books now. And he has been extremely patient with us as we learned how to publish books, how to be a press, and it's really been just a joy to work with him, and it's a joy to have this reading happening now. I do want to say I am going to send, if you haven't bought the book yet, I'm going to send around a link with a discount code for people in this meeting if you want to order it. And so you can do that directly from the Paideia Institute website. It's also available on Amazon, but buy it directly from Paideia. You'll save a little bit on shipping. I think Nick also wanted to mention, and I can mention it for him, and then Nick, if you want, you can plug it yourself. He and Anne together have another book of poetry coming out very soon. It's a collaboration on their part with a different press. It's called Potsherds, so be on the lookout for that. More of what you're getting here today is forthcoming. So that's it. I'll shut up, and Nick, you can take it away.
Thank you. The book is called Ora et Labora, and you know probably that it's the rule of Saint Benedict, and it means literally pray and labor, work. I'm not a believer, so I interpret it differently. I think that labor, especially labor on the land, cultivating the land, for me, is a form of prayer, of meditation. I understand that Saint Benedict had his monks work on the land as an integral part of their ascesis, their spiritual exercise. And interestingly, monks on the holy mountain in Greece, on Mount Athos, still cultivate their gardens and their vineyards as part of their ascesis, their ascetic devotions. So the book is divided into 7 sections, each named after a day of the week, starting on Monday, and each has an epigraph, which I will read because it sets the context and atmosphere of the section. I will read a poem from each section. If you get bored, you can click off, I understand, with this new technology. My students used to fall asleep when they got bored in my poetry classes, but you can be more discreet and just click off. And at the end of the reading, I will ask you to question or comment or condemn or whatever you want, and we can have an open discussion. I will, there are notes at the back of the book. I will explain certain things before some of the poems, give you a background and explain certain things in the poem to better understand it. The first section, Monday, begins with an epigraph from by Bertrand Russell, the great philosopher and teacher, whom I had the great fortune as a teenager to follow in his anti-nuclear marches in England in the 1950s. And Russell wrote, "You gave us insufficient evidence." And the first poem is called Family Portrait, 1940. It's on page 4 for those of you who have the book. And this is the family portrait. It's my father, a 27-year-old lieutenant in the British Army, and my mother, 19, his former student, holding me, an infant of a few weeks, I believe. And he served in the British Army in the war. The Brits, some of you may know, fought the Second World War with British soldiers, but also with soldiers, millions actually, from the Commonwealth and the Empire. In Cyprus, which was a crown colony where I was born, they created what they called the Cypress Regiment, which was joined by tens of thousands of Cypriots, volunteered, and was officered by British officers. And my father, since he was a British officer of Greek descent, a British officer in the reserves, was immediately conscripted. He was married in 1939 and 38, sorry, and in 1939 went to war. So this is the snapshot. Family Portrait, 1940. Her head is bowed over the sleeping child she cradles in her arm. Only her lovely forehead, brows, and nose are visible. He stands beside her chair, arms behind his back as though on the parade ground. Does he hold a swagger stick behind his back? Clad in desert khakis, baggy shorts, shirt open at the neck, Sam Brown polished to a sheen. Though clean-shaven, as befits an officer even when on leave, his face is blank. His lips, his sensual lips, set as if there's nothing more to say. His eyes, lynx green, lost in monochrome, look into the lens as though down the barrel of a gun. He seems absent from the moment, this first glimpse of his firstborn son. The portrait stands beside the hourglass on my desk. His gaze is an abyss I cannot fathom, so I guess. Would he see the two again? Would he see his son a man? I'll never have an answer. He never mentioned it, nor did she. Unlike us, they were laconic, stoic too, took their lives without protest or complaint, or even a passing nod. At least that's what we understood. What was the cost? I asked the snap. And who paid? You, she, or all three? The next poem, still from Monday, is one of a series that are entitled The Veteran. Crete, where we lived for 25 years and where we still have a home and our farm, was the site of one of the bloodiest minor battles in the Second World War, the Battle of Crete in May of 1941, in which my father fought because he was an officer in the British Expeditionary Force that Churchill sent to Greece to fend off the Germans and suffered a devastating defeat. It was the first time that Hitler used his prize divisions, the parachute division. It was the first use of parachutists in military history, and his Alpine division. They were decimated by the remnants of the British Expeditionary Force on the ground, but they won the battle in the end due to typical British military incompetence. The Commonwealth and Imperial Cemetery, War Cemetery in Suda Bay in Crete contains thousands of British dead, and it's one of the loveliest sites in Crete. The Brits always choose marvelous sites for their military cemeteries. And every year, until a few years ago, on the 21st of May, the Brits would organize one of their fantastic displays of military commemoration and spectacle. And this was the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Crete in 1981, which my father wanted to attend, leading his regiment. But unfortunately, he died 6 months before being able to attend it. and I attended with my sons and our students, who were mightily impressed. The Flowers of the Forest, which a piper plays, is a very well-known Scottish melody, and Going Home is the Scottish dirge, which is played at the end of a funeral or a commemoration of a battle. The veteran has a subtitle. It's called The Deserter, and I think you'll like the story. The Duke, by the way, in the first stanza was the Duke of Kent, the Queen's first cousin, who represented the Queen at this 50th anniversary, and the Prime Ministers of Greece, New Zealand, and Australia attended because there were large contingents of Australian and New Zealand troops in the defense of Crete. The veteran, the deserter. The boy marvels. The bands, the phalanxes of troops, the veterans, old men still standing, the premiers, the Duke of the blood royal no less, the warships anchored in the bay. A Highland piper walks along the rows of graves, piping Flowers of the Forest. Is this too sad, laddie? I'll play a merrier tune for you. They'll like it too. The boy looks up in awe. But the young men do not rise to dance, nor do the flowers of the forest bloom. The veterans show no surprise. I spy my father's regimental badge. You are the major's son, the old man asks. Where's your dad? He died 6 months ago. May God forgive him. Tell your mother this. He saved my life, and how? The boy pipes up, hungry to hear heroic deeds of Grandpa's war. How? It's like this. I marry Mariku and volunteer. They ship us to the desert. I miss her. Just 18 I am, brainless. I desert. Don't get far. Court-martial. Your father's on the bench. Sir, I missed my Mariku, I plead. They give me 15 days. They could have shot me. Tell your mom, my Mariku blesses his name each night. She'll pray for you as well. At the setting of the sun, the piper pipes going home. The veterans salute, march out till next year, perhaps. Their mates forever in the ground, forever young, forever not going home. The boy forever asking, how? And Mariku forever blessing us for deeds we do not own. Tuesday. The title here is The House, and the epigraph is by the great Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. Why did you leave the house alone? To keep the house company, my son. Houses die when their inhabitants are gone. And the poem is called Departures. She pulls out clothes, books, poems, jewels, iPads, piles them on the floor, lets them sit like meat marinating overnight. Next day, she goes at it. In a blink, she picks out what she needs, packs it, folded and tucked in place, zips bags up, done. I set 2 days before, dump stuff here, there, around the house, back and forth, item, this, that, the other, back to drawer, desk, closet, stuff on tables, stuff on chairs, floors piled high. Am I cleaning the place out? Moving house. My Fitbit reads 8K, tearing around in just one day. On the morning of departure, my bags are overweight, will not zip up. I tip them out and start all over. It would appear I am not quite ready to depart. Simply put, she knows exactly what she wants, takes it, lets go of the rest without regret, whereas I pack stuff I do not need, forget 10 things I do, and leave behind a mess in our defenseless, shuttered house. I look back, she never does. Humbled by such unhealthy habits, I trust my last departure will be quick, without regrets or fuss, and bagless. And the house? The house, alas, owing to my extended absence, must do its best defenseless. Whatever else is wrought, I lose it by default. Wednesday, the epigraph, the title of this is The Island, and the quote comes from Aeschylus, in Greek, Nisos tis esti, there is an island. And the island is the island of Kalymnos, where we ran our school and where I met my wife. And the island famous for its divers. It was the sponge center of the universe until 20, 30 years ago, until the industry died down. I should mention that the men sailed out on 10, 12, 14 meter wooden boats to North Africa, from Egypt to Morocco, 10, 12 men to a boat, living, sleeping, shitting, eating, and dying on the boats. And they died with horrifying frequency, because the old diving suits, which were introduced at the end of the 19th century, made sponge diving much, much easier and profitable for the owners and the merchants of the sponge, but they also killed divers with the bends, as it's called, a horrible, painful death. So when women said goodbye to the men at the beginning of the spring, and they sailed off 80, 100, 120 vessels for North Africa, they didn't know whether the men would come back, or if they came back, whether they would be paralyzed by the bends and be dragging themselves around the island. John Kaufman remembers paralyzed divers pulling their dead legs along with a cane.
John Kaufman does not remember that, but thank you.
Oh, he doesn't remember. Well, he was 18. He was a very innocent 18-year-old. Okay. Mark Bazir, do you remember the divers? You do, yeah. Anyway, and I've chosen a poem that it's called The Gilded Dress. It comes from a folk song. I don't know if many of you know this, but there is a huge body of extraordinary poetry, folk poetry in modern Greek, sung, and every region, every island, almost every mountain has its own songs. And I think they're impossible to translate, as folk songs usually are, and I've adapted, I would say, I've imitated some of the songs. The Gilded Dress, divers called the diving suit tophorema, the dress. This song from Kalymnos is sung by a woman who talks about his dress and how she will gild it to protect him. And of course, the dress becomes his winding sheet when he dies in it. The Austria and the Ponendes winds, since Venice dominated the Mediterranean from the 12th century on, all over the Mediterranean and certainly in Greece, sailors use Italian to describe parts of the vessel, the sails. They shout orders in Italian, and of course the points of the compass are in Italian, and the winds. So this is called the Gilded Dress. St. Nicholas, by the way, is not Father Christmas. St. Nicholas was the bishop of Myra in southeastern Turkey, today Turkey, in the 4th century, and is the patron saint of mariners, not Christmas. Every Greek island has a church, very prominently in its harbor, dedicated to Saint Nicholas the mariner. The Gilded Dress. Before he sails, she sings, "I'll gather gold from dawn, my love, and gild your dress with it." Omits, lest it become your shroud. Some things are left best unsaid. When they set sail for Barbary, south-southwest out of the harbor bay, the wordless women watch, stemming tears until the last mast drops beyond the headland of Saint Nicholas the mariner, blessed be his name. Then they walk home, children in tow, and weep. None knows who will return or won't. None knows whose children will be selling matches on the street. I'll be the Austria blowing astern to bring you home, the Ponendes from the setting sun to cool your brow. O sea, O bitter sea, bitter churning water, be rose water on his lips. O bitter brine, be honey. Thursday. It's called, the title is Recurrence, and it's William Faulkner's famous epigraph. The past is never dead, it's not even past. And I'm going to read two poems. one after the other because they're about the same brothers, Cleovis and Viton, two brothers in, I'll show you their, here they are. Kouroi from the Delphi Museum. The kouros was an early 6th century statue. I think clearly imitated, the Greeks imitated the Egyptian style. The left leg, they stand with their arms to their side. Their left leg is slightly forward, and they have this peculiar smile on their face, which scholars have been wondering what it means. Maybe Jordana can answer that at some point. Their story is in the poems. Their mother was called Kidipi, and in the second poem, Cleovis and Viton, their mother was the high priestess of the temple of Hera, the sister and wife of Father Zeus, who was the goddess of maternal love and childbirth, and very jealous of her brother and husband who behaved very naughtily. There are some Greek terms down at the end of the second poem. Thanatos kalos meant a good death, and vios kalos, the good life. Not the good life as in having parties, but the virtuous life. And I think that is all. Cleovis and Viton, subtitle, Their Smile. Kouroi, brothers in affect once, companions now in stone, they stand in stony equipoise, not yet the liquid marble of our golden age, their smile equivocal, but hides no guile, just wry amen to fickle gods and fate. Champions, hoplites, herders, loving sons, see that left leg forward in arrested step, the right rooted to the stone from which they rose. When will the right break free, radiant in their repose? The day dawned like any other. They saw no omen in the sky, heard no thunder in the hills, not even when the oxen fled, for no good reason, their mother waiting. Or did they falter, caught off guard? See there, Kidipi standing at the gate, impatient to get going. Cleovis and Viton 2, the subtitle is A Yoke of Oxen. The oxen gone, they rose to the occasion, yoked their hoplite shoulders to the cart and hauled their dam high priestess to Hera, to her temple on this, the goddess's feast day. Their duty done, as sons, they sacrificed a ram to her, queen of childbirth and maternal love, feasted, hailed the goddess, and their dam laid their heads in garlands at the temple steps and slipped into that gentle sleep of surfeit after a day well spent. in her beatitude and bliss, Kidipi asked the Queen of Life and Love to bless them with the greatest gift a god could give a mortal. She left the choice of gift to Hera, who obliged. Cleovis and Viton did not awake next day or ever. What is the moral of this tale? That a thanatos kalos consummates a vios kalos, that a vios kalos earns a thanatos kalos, or that we should never trust a god? Or did the goddess wish to teach them something or other with a gift? Or that we should not wish our children be exempt? When all is said and speculations done, it comes to this. What was Kidipi thinking? Could she not have asked Hera for a yoke of oxen for their cart? And the next poem is Diagoras of Rhodes, who was the greatest champion in antiquity in the Olympic Games. He won more crowns than any other athlete by far. He was a boxer in the Pankration, the all wrestling and boxing tournaments of the Olympic Games. And it's a story I love. Remember that in Greece, in ancient Greece, there were not only the Olympic Games, but the Nemean Games, which were in honor of Heracles in the Peloponnese, and the Delphic Games, which were in honor of Apollo at Delphi, and the Isthmian Games in Corinth, which were in honor of Poseidon. So this is the story of Diagoras of Rhodes. He won them all. Crowns of olive at Olympia, crowns of pine at Isthmia, at Nemea wild celery, and at Delphi laurel. He was acclaimed the greatest, renowned from end to end of our middle sea. His sons, champions in their own right, added further glory to their name and island. Occasion, the 83rd Olympiad. Site, the stadium at Olympia. Scene, both sons win olive crowns. They swoop into the cheering crowd, emerge, their father on their shoulders, they parade him round the track. As 40,000 hoplites, athletes, farmers, seamen, traders roar, a Spartan shouts above the din. Gat thane Diagora, uk eston olimbon anavisi. Die now, Diagoras, since to Olympus thou canst never ascend. The multitude take up the chant. Die now, Diagoras, for thou, a mortal, canst never to Olympus rise. He bows his head and dies. Friday. The epigraph is from a Rebetika song. Charon, of course, is the boatman who ferries the dead across the Styx. And in Greek, it says, Vgiko haros napsarepsi metangistritu psyches. Charon went out fishing with hook and bait for souls. Departure Day. An oboe was the smallest denomination of coin in the ancient world, and it's the coin that was put under the tongue of the dead to pay Charon for him to be, or her to be, ferried across the Styx. Departure Day. Departure Day has come again. Where to, where from, you may well ask. Departing, arriving, staying too long or too little, you lose track. Cases, boxes, backpacks, planes, trains, ships, queuing, pacing, waiting, always waiting, and not for Godot or barbarians either, just waiting to get going there and back. A lifetime of leaving and starting afresh, of returning to finish the unfinished something or other, of idling verbs coming and going nowhere. Sometimes you wish, oh, forget it. Time to push off with this thought for solace. At your last exit, you go unencumbered. Ticket, bags, passport, redundant. Just an oboe in hand. That and a smile, please, not a grimace. Saturday, the title is from Alice in Wonderland, one of my favorite books, Curiouser and Curiouser. And the epigraph is from Monty Python. Good evening. Tonight in Is There, we examine the question, is there life after death? And here to discuss it are three dead people. And Saturday is dreams, dreamscapes. You said, I am unmoored when I am far from you, a bottle bobbing in the sea with a message in a language no one knows. I said, last night the stairs collapsed. I huddled in your head. You are my stairs, I said. I can ascend, descend at will. You smiled and disappeared, leaving your head behind. I climbed the absent stairs, step by absent step into your head, and crowned my head with yours, then hurtled headless, limbless, to the bed Procrustes left us. I'm never sure whose head I'm in, adrift in this Procrustean bed, flotsam from the house we built a different time ago, then abandoned to its fate, pleading our case in a language no one knows. And the last two poems are from Sunday. The epigraph is from Homer, The Field of Asphodels, when Odysseus descends into Hades to confer with Tiresias about his fate. He first comes into a field full of asphodels, which is a bulb that shoots up with the first moisture in the air in September, October, all over the Greek mountains. A beautiful, delicate white flower. And it's like the periscope through which the dead watch the living. And then it dies until the next autumn rains. And the poem, and this is how the book ends, the quote, the poems are entitled Forget Me Not 1 and Forget Me Not 2. Forget Me Not, of course, is a flower. And the idea came from Aeschylus's marvelous line, and we saw the Aegean flower with, we saw the Aegean flower with corpses. And the picture I had in mind was a picture which has become notorious, infamous in the past 6 or 7 years, of a refugee child washed ashore on a beach, his tiny body half in the water, half outside, and then a Coast Guard holding this child in his arms and looking utterly stunned. The quote of the first poem, the Epigraph, is by Pablo Neruda from his great poem, I'm Explaining a Few Things. It reads, the blood of the children runs through the streets like the blood of the children. Bit by bit, you lose your grasp on things that count. Worst on words. A word slips down like a drowning hand. Once sunk, you cannot retrieve it. Then the wrong word surfaces, an uninvited guest who will not budge. What are those flowers called? The ones you planted in your other house. The word has sunk. Fuchsia, no. Foxglove, no. Forsythia, no. Forget-me-not, that's it. How could you let it slip? Then you grasp this. A bloom washed up by last night's gale, a tiny corpse among the beachheads and umbrellas, a child in matted shirt and shorts, one shoe lost. The dead boy's name has slipped your grasp. Fuchsia, foxglove, forget-me-not? Of course not, no. The name, his name, the toddlers on our beach, that bitter night, his father's hand let his hand slip away. He sank, a bloom, a boy, a name. There is no trope for this obscenity. Look, that's not a nimbus round the corpse's head. Those are flies feasting on his eyes. La sangre de los niños. The poet dared no simile to grasp the dead child's hand, so how may we understand? But grasp we must. At least his name, please, his name. Peccavimus. Forget-me-not 2, the epigraph is by the great Jewish poet Chaim Nachman Bialik. Perhaps the father of modern Jewish poetry, who went to the city of Kishinev in Moldova, today's Moldova, to record what happened in the pogrom of 1903, which was the forerunner of far worse horrors to come in the 20th century. And he wrote a poem after the pogrom there, which was called In the City of Slaughter. And the epigraph reads, Satan has not yet created retribution for the blood of a small child, and cursed be he who cries vengeance. I confess, I looked it up. The image is iconic now. It stirred, they trumpeted, the conscience of the world. Fat good that did. Aylan or Alan Kurdi, aged 5, his brother 3, drowned 2, his corpse not found, thus not an icon he. So, Charon, tell me this, how do you usher murdered children in? Do you take them by the hand, entice them with a lollipop to hell? Do you stow them in a special spot? Once again, we see the Aegean flower with corpses. Again, exotic blossoms of the sea festoon our shores. Enough, enough of never again. No more excuses or regrets. When children die by human hand, though there be no vengeance, their dead hand smothers verse. The murder of Aylan is the murder of Aylan. Let's now restore what we forgot. The flower on our shore, the tiny tot, Aylan, forget me not. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nick. I think we have time for some questions and discussion, if anyone would like. Many of you are muted. You just have to unmute your mic before you talk, if anyone has questions.
I'm afraid I have to run to
Nick,
an appointment, but I wanted to thank Nick. I think that your narrative voice is so strong and beautiful, cultivated, and learn as you have from Seferis and the flowering of the corpses. Go on that way. You're doing wonderful work. I'm running now.
Thank you, Mike.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye.
Yeah, I thought I'd sort of get things started here. I'll tell you, like, it seems, Nick, that the poems you chose, certainly for this reading, they do center around death. This has been something you've been particularly thinking about. That it seems to be the strong theme here.
Well, I've always thought about it, and you know, I'm reading my existential philosophers at a tender age, and of course admiring Greek tragedy and Socrates. One, you know, death is our companion. He walks by our side. But I'll let you into a secret. I got cancer 4 years ago, so you know, I have to live with it, and it's what got me started at an old age, writing again after 40 years of silence.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clear that it's a companion to your writing for sure. Yeah, very, very strong. Just one other thing. So the story of Cleovis and Phaeton, that's such a, seems like an incredible condemnation of life itself by the most literal reading of it. And I would say I really like the sort of layers of questions that you added onto it. I mean, so like, so do you think that, you know, did you look back on your own life and say it would be a blessing to have you know, dropped the curtain, you know, when I was 18 and had just like, you know, brought my mom to the temple, or do you have much more of a this is a blessed thing way of looking at it?
I don't think, I don't see it as that. I see it as a poem about hubris, Kidipi's hubris, that she asked for the greatest gift that a god could. And I think this is what the ancients must have understood, that yes, of course, because the poem on the next poem, Diagoras of Rhodes, suggests that there are moments in life where you cannot rise any higher. The next step is becoming immortal and a god, which we can't do. So therefore, die now, katsane diagora, they shouted, die now, Diagoras, because where can you go from here? And that poses all sorts of profound philosophical and moral issues for us humans. But I think the focus of Cleovis and Viton is hubris, Kidipi's hubris, asking for something that she should not have asked for from the goddess. And why couldn't she have asked for a bloody yoke of oxen? Did she have to ask for the greatest gift a god could bestow? And Hera said, all right, take this. I'll put you in your place, mortal. And this, I think, meant an awful lot to the ancients. Overreaching, challenging the gods. We can't be permitted to do that. They'll strike us down.
Great, that's great.
Nick, I have a question about your verse. I noticed in the last poem that you end it with a rhyme. There's
Yes.
the taught and forget me not. And I think I heard another final rhyme in another poem. I can't remember what it was. Is that intentional? And how do you feel? I mean, when you're writing verse, do you have rhyme on the mind, or do you studiously avoid it, or what? How would you characterize your verse?
Well, I think more important than rhyme is beat, it's cadence. Rhyme comes naturally, I think, at critical moments. And in the next book, Potsherds, of very short poems, 2, 3, 5-line poems, it comes in more frequently. But it has an effect. I use it sparingly because I want it to have an effect. But Jason, I think that the beat is more important to me than rhyme. Poetry, I think, is I mean, remember, it was sung. It was song once upon a time. And in many parts of the world, it is still song. So if it doesn't have a beat to me, it's not poetry, it's prose. And a lot of the stuff I read today is you know, it's written up and down in columns, but it reads like prose. It has no rhythm to it. It has no cadence to it. So I don't go deliberately for rhyme. It comes when it should come. Yes?
Can I ask, first of all, again, congratulations on a very beautiful reading. I really liked the poems. I must say, I understand the whole idea and the memento mori with death, but I also saw it a lot like a very yes to life at the same time.
Yeah,
because
yeah, absolutely.
it felt like a whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
The question I wanted to ask is, was it intentional to put ritual again in your poetry, or am I misreading it? I felt like it was a new ritualistic week of very nicely placed gems from travels throughout history and time and physical place. So the ritual is it my
I think you're right, Elias. I think you're right. There is, yeah, there is a ritualistic element to it. I'm a crass unbeliever. I see my wife smiling a little bit at that, but I really love ritual. I love anything as banal as the trooping of the color on the Queen's birthday in Admiralty Square in London, as much as I love Byzantine ritual and Byzantine chant or Sufi whirling dervish ritual. I love ritual. And I think this is what I wanted to put in the book by dividing the book into 7 sections and the days of the week. It's a way we measure time, and it rounds off the week on a Sunday for Christians, on a Saturday for Jews, and starts the next week. So I think you're right. And a lot of the poems, I think, are ritualistic in a sense. They're like ritual songs. And that comes from an unbeliever. So you go figure. Anything else?
But you were still saying that, can't do this because the gods won't let us. So.
Yes. Well, no, these are questions. These are conundra. They're not anything I think we can answer, or we can give one answer today and we give another answer tomorrow. It's only the sort of ideologues of extreme, the fanatics, the zealots who have the concrete and definitive final answers to these questions. All we can do, I think, is pose them, and maybe we come up with contradictory answers, but that's how it is.
Thank you, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Anne has these balloons.
Ah.
And sandy beach or sand.
Any other questions or comments from anyone?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
much.
My next book, I should say, my next book, I'm going to make a plug. Potsherds is going to press next week, so it should be out very soon, and it's very, very different from Ora et Labora. So,
and Nick, if we buy it now, we can get it for the low price of $9.99.
Oh, you cheapskate! Oh my God! Yes, no, it's going to be $20 for you. It's going to be $50.
I'm sure I'll find a use for it.
You're great.
Oh, another rude comment. Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you for your patience.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you for doing
coming.
this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Nick.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how to turn this thing off. I think Anne will have to turn it
On
off.
for the rest of your life.
Yes, I'll be on for the rest of my life. Yes.
Hate to leave.
Ya, Nico, ya, filha, pode na. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, there are Anne's stones. Yeah, those are stones. Yeah.
I could end the meeting, but if I do, then everyone else gets kicked out and I don't have the heart to.
Okay.
So I'm just letting people sign off slowly.
Okay. How did it go, do you think?
Great. I thought it was
Yes.
great.
Very good.
Maria Vardis, yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
hi. Hi from Jerusalem. Everyone's
Hi
asleep
from
now.
Jerusalem, Yerushalayim.
Jerusalem. Loved it as usual, and sending you, Ramon, and everyone much love. Okay, we'll see
Thank
you.
you, Maria. Thank you.
Bye.
Να είστε καλά. Καλό βράδυ. Γεια χαρά.
Yeah.
Nico,
Yes.
I think I finally found the unmute button. This is Millie speaking.
Hi, Millie.
I just wanted to thank you for putting feeling back into current events, to speaking to the current events, because
Thank you.
It's so overwhelming sometimes. So thank you for
Thank you,
putting
Millie.
feeling back in.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. You're looking great.
Oh, thank you.
All right, I'll sign off now.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Are they gone?
She's.
Yasun?
I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, I can see.
Millie is still here, but she's muted now.
Mhm.
Here, I'll just. All right, good. Now it's just us.
Mhm.
I think it went great.
Good.
It was nice to see that there was a good mix of about, I would say about half of them were your people and half of them were our people.
Good.
Good. And that was great. So
good.
You probably need a rest.
No, I need to have something to eat. I haven't eaten.
No. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Jason.
weekend. Yeah,
You
my
too.
pleasure.
Say
Bye-bye.
hi to Annie and Magnolia.
Will do.
Take care.
Bye-bye.